You know, we've, I mentioned our efforts on illegal immigration, stepping up and really helping. And I think the one thing that we have seen over the initial months of the Trump administration is when we'd ask DHS, what can we do? They're just like, you know, we just need detention space. Because, you know, if you bring in illegal in, there is, the media says there is a process they go through, right, to determine whether you're in the country illegally. Some people may have a notice to appear in 7 days and from an immigration judge. Some people may already have an order of, so there's stuff that go into it. And so, but that was the one thing, I've talked to Tom Homan about it, I've talked to a lot of these folks about it. And so we had a plan that we put out and told them, hey, we can execute this. I think we probably put it out about a month or so ago through the Division of Emergency Management under our director, Kevin Guthrie, where we would be able to stand up some makeshift detention space very quickly around the state of Florida. And we were talking about other different possibilities. So DHS was very supportive. So, you know, what we're doing is like the state is doing it. The feds are kind of overseeing and then reimbursing us for the cost. But, you know, we're looking at, okay, where could you do it that's not going to disturb the community, not going to create problems? And, you know, there just happens to be this Dade Collier Airport that's out there kind of in the middle of the Everglade area. And it's not defunct. People say there are training flights that go in there, but it's a massive runway. And, you know, there's not a lot of buildings out there, but there's a lot of concrete. And so these guys set up this whole thing within a matter of days. And so when the president comes tomorrow, he's going to be able to see, you know, you're going to be able to do, what'll happen is you bring people in there. They ain't going anywhere once they're there unless you want them to go somewhere, because good luck getting the civilization. So the security is amazing. But what, natural and otherwise. But what it can be, I think, is an effective way to increase the number of removals and deportations, which ultimately, if you don't do that, you know, you're going to continue to have this problem of illegal immigration. So you'll be able to bring people in, they'll get processed, they have an order of removal, then they can be queued, and you can, the federal government can fly right on the runway, right there. You literally drive them 2,000 feet, put them on a plane, and then they're gone. It's very logistically simple, but what we're also going to do is, you know, this idea of immigration judge, these are not Article III judges. They're not federal judges like we think of. These are executive branch employees who are called immigration judges. So you can have you can deputize different employees to do that. So we've offered some of our National Guardsmen to be able to serve as immigration judges. So what you could have is, okay, someone's a criminal alien, they obviously fast track. Someone has an order of deportation, okay, fast track. Someone may have just gotten picked up. They come, they can get like a notice to appear. Biden would tell you to come in 2 years. Under the Trump administration, it's usually within, 14 to 30 days. But we can have our National Guard acting as immigration judges right on site. So you go, maybe you have a day or two, whatever, and then a decision's made. And then that's it. So this is potentially be a force multiplier as this goes. And so, I did speak with the president this weekend. He's very excited about doing it. But I think what he wants to see is, Florida should not be the only one in this fight, right? We literally are doing what the voters who elected all of us have been demanding for many, many years. And immigration was maybe the number one issue, maybe inflation, but certainly no worse than the second most important issue in the 2024 presidential election. So we've got to do it. And we're also looking at Camp Blanding up in Northeast Florida, which has a runway. And again, similar thing, secure, not going to interrupt the community, be able to fly people out. The feds will do it. We actually flew to Martha's Vineyard, right? We could probably fly there, but I think they want to be in charge of that because there's diplomatic niceties that go on, and I get it. So, but I do think that if you increase the amount of space for processing and then to be able to get them ripe to then be able to return to their home country by the thousands, that's going to really make a difference. And in Florida, we estimate we've got 50,000 illegal aliens in Florida who have already been ordered to be removed by an immigration judge. So you talk about, they've gone through this process, they have an order to remove, and they're just still here. And so that's low-hanging fruit. But we were in a situation where there's such a limited space that ICE has. Do you want all of our jails to be overflowing with illegals, or would you rather have that done in a separate mission? Because, unfortunately, we've got U.S. citizens committing crimes, and they are going to need to be held accountable. So it puts pressure on, it takes pressure off of our local institutions in a way that I think will be very, very efficient. So it should be, I think people are impressed. I think a lot of people didn't even know there was an airport there. I mean, but there is there. I mean, it's a good facility. Things are being done in, I think, a very efficient fashion. And I was really, honestly, I was impressed, but I know dealing with the hurricane response and all the other, monoclonal antibodies during COVID. We would set up monoclonal antibody clinics on 24-hour notice. Hey, we need one in Jacksonville. 24 hours later, it's up. That's this emergency response apparatus that we have. So I think it'll be interesting to see. And I believe by tomorrow they will be open. So DHS approved us doing this last week, and I think by tomorrow it'll be ready for business. Yes. That's his plan.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that. Walk us through, if you can pull back the curtain and walk us through the process of how Florida is able to make this stuff happen so fast. I recall the bridge, remember after a hurricane 3 years ago, and people in other parts of the U.S. were involved in how we made that happen. So fast forward, whether people like it or not, how is this process able to happen? Just walk us through the steps.
It's just leadership and execution. We are a state that really understands when you're a skinny, you're a peninsula sticking out in the middle of a tropical part of the world, you are going to have to deal with weather disasters. Now, we've had our share in the last however many years. Maybe we get a break this year, but we're prepared. And so you have that. You've also seen that put into place to head off the BLM riots back in 2020. You didn't see that happening here because we had response. Even when like spring break in Miami Beach, we had to send people in and get that in order. The monoclonal antibody, we used emergency response. There were obviously physicians and nurses on site, but the logistics of it was all through that. So we have wherewithal to be able to do things and do things quickly. What I told when I first became governor, I said, all right, we got to look to see what's happened well, what hasn't happened well in different things. And a lot of people were frustrated with the power response in terms of being without power for 3 weeks or something. And so we launched our initiative to pre-stage the linemen. So it's a similar thing, honestly. It's not a detention facility, but we will set up camps where these folks are able to be there, ride out the storm, and then immediately go in and start reconnecting the power. So we just did Hurricane Milton. There were 4.2 million restorations in record time, and 99% of that was within a matter of days. The majority of that was within 24 hours. Usually in the past, folks weren't even on site working for another 72 hours, right? So we've done that. So it's a similar thing. We had set out the plans to DHS. This is something they wanted to approve. And we knew we'd get the reimbursement, and we're doing it actually at a rate that's cheaper than what I think they anticipated. And so you do it and you make it happen. That's just how we roll in Florida. It's important, but the directive I gave was, okay, let's see what we can do better, but by all means, do not get ground down in bureaucracy. Do not get ground down in red tape. We know what the policy is. You obviously, there's certain things you have to check, obviously, but just get it done and stop acting like don't pass the buck. Just do it. So that's what we do. And I think it's been something that we have great response. We work very quickly. Those are just the expectations. No. It's all self-contained. So they will be transporting out the wastewater to facilities. There's going to be zero impact on the surrounding area. They're going above and beyond on that. They do that as a matter of course anyways. I mean, if we were doing a hurricane response in like Fort Myers Beach, you're very sensitive about that. So it isn't any different. But this is, I think people think that somehow we just decided to build an airport out of whole cloth. No, that was there, right? It's a bunch of concrete. They're utilizing that, but it's interesting because they're utilizing the existing concrete footprint. Even on the interior of the airport where there's grass, they're staying off that grass. It's just grass, guys. It isn't anything, but that's what they were doing. So yes, so that'll all be self-contained. They're going to go to extraordinary lengths to ensure that. And obviously, I've invested how much billions and billions of dollars into increasing and improving the hydrology of the Everglades. If I thought somehow this was not going to hurt that, then I wouldn't do it. I mean, I think this is the most efficient and effective place to do it. No, the Florida residents are not going to know that this stuff's not going to impinge on them. Whereas if you put it in a more populated area, it might. This facility just happened to be there, so we'll do. But they've got a really strong management plan. And then some people ask, like, well, what if there's a hurricane? Like, do you think they didn't think of that? Of course they do. Anytime you would do anything in Florida, you'd have to think about, what's going to be resistant at what. Now, this is more interior, and so the winds that you would get would likely not be as strong as what a major hurricane would bring right on the coast, but it still could potentially be significant. And so, of course, that they have plans and contingencies for all of that. So, yes, that'll be done, and we would not have agreed to do it at that site if I thought that somehow it was going to negatively impact all the great work we've done on improving and restoring the Everglades. In fact, we're going to be opening up the C-43 reservoir here in a couple of weeks. Massive, monumental achievement to be able to have gotten that done. And so the progress has been fantastic.